built this country, built the White House, and now you're trying to minimize their accomplishments. And when there was a Black Wall Street, you burned it down. You're shameless. Then you bring the 13th Amendment, you incarcerate them, you keep them in systemic poverty. It's not by happenstance.
Hey, what's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? It's your boy Chris. It's your boy Chris. It's another amazing episode of Financipation. This channel is all about making money. It's all about saving money. It's all about building generational wealth. And it's all about financially emancipating yourself from generational poverty. So I wanted to do something a little different this year, everybody. For 2022, in the year 2022, we had a lot of very powerful things happen in the Black community and the community that shares our reflection. And I kind of want to discuss some of those items. So some of the people that I have on this podcast, I want them to pretty much kind of talk about some of the things that we've discussed and just kind of where our community is headed and everything. So first and foremost, let's start off. Let's introduce ourselves, okay? So I'll start with my boy Will first. I'll start with Will first. Name, occupation. You can talk about your relationship status if you want, and we can go from there.
Excellent. Thank you for having me on, Chris. My name is William White. For everybody who doesn't know, I'm 38 years old. I'm a single guy. I live here in Miami. I work in the finance world as an underwriting director for a merchant services company, and I also do a little bit of private consulting on the side.
Got you. Cool. Well, welcome to the Financipation tribe, Will. You're gonna fit right in with us.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right, next, let's go to my boy Eric. Eric, go ahead, dog. Go ahead.
Chris, thank you again for having me. My name is Eric Drummond. I'm a software analyst and a developer. I also do training on software for our new acquisitions, where we train people how to use the software. I'm a married man. I'm 38 years old. I have 3 beautiful kids, and Financipation is something that Chris does that I love, that we preach in our house. So I'm thankful to be here, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you.
No doubt. And what's up, everybody? If you don't know, my name is Chris or whatever. I wanted to start this channel because I got sick and tired of seeing people who look like us literally work their entire lives and not have nothing to show for it. And that was one of the things that I kind of see, unfortunately, overwhelmingly in our community. If I say a little bit about myself, I'm a mechanical engineer. I design things for the federal government. I can't even tell you who some of my clients are. And on top of that, I have an MBA, and I love basically teaching people the business of how to basically financially emancipate themselves from generational poverty. So I'm thoroughly looking forward to this podcast today or whatever, because I think there's a lot of things in our community I want to kind of touch on that happened last year. Okay, so first and foremost, let's go ahead and get right into it. Okay, Kim, can you introduce yourself, or you still need a little bit more time?
I can go ahead and introduce myself. My
right.
name is Marsha L. To my close friends, I'm Kim. I'm a singer, songwriter, bionic model, amputee. I love what this channel is doing, Chris. So thank you so much. And I'm excited to get into it.
Definitely. Absolutely. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So unless you've been living under a rock, you've heard the names of Tyree Nichols, Tamir Rice, Breonna Taylor, Sandra Bland, all these gentlemen, all these women, unfortunately. You have to be aware pretty much of the lynchings that are going on right now in Black bodies all across America. Cell phone cameras, these things right here, have essentially educated the entire world on what we have been saying has been going on in our communities literally for over 100 years. So what are your thoughts, I would say, first and foremost, on Tyree Nichols and the Black Lives Matter movement? And Will, let's start with you first, okay?
I'll be honest, from dealing with the Tyree Nichols incident, the most recent incident, I didn't even want to watch the video. I haven't even seen the video. The way I look at it, it's essentially different actors in the same movie, right? It's the same movie that we've seen over and over. I'm starting to get a little bit more details about some of the officers that were involved and such and so forth. But, there's still an overwhelming systematic issue that needs to be addressed. And whether it's Tyree or whether it's Eric Gardner or Mike Brown, it's still the same systemic issue that goes on. We have to try to find the answer within ourselves, understanding that the system just works against us. I think that unfortunately there's a lot more time spent trying to fight the system that is set up against us, as opposed to trying to find alternatives around the system. I don't have those answers. Maybe there are other guys that have other considerations. I know for me, one of the things I've looked at is, potentially having, moving overseas, to be honest, having investment properties. I have an uncle who has investment properties in different parts of South America. He's starting to sort of loop me into what he has going on. So, those are the sort of the alternatives that I'm looking at. I work in an industry that allows me to work remote, right? So I don't have to physically be in an office all the time. So that's something that I'm really taking into serious consideration, because it's a system that we were not, if you go back to the beginning of time, we were brought to this country, but we were not meant to stay in this country. We were brought here to provide a service, a labor, and they were expecting to send us somewhere else, right? Or be continual slaves until the day that we die. We were never meant to be free and equal in this country. So why are we still looking to be free and equal now, is how I look at it.
That's powerful, bro. That's powerful. You don't mind me asking, what countries in South America? Because I'm hearing a lot of brothers, particularly the ones that are kind of a little more up higher in the socioeconomic status, talking about retiring abroad. So what countries does your uncle own property in?
He has some stuff down in Colombia and also in Peru. I haven't been to either one, but I know that he has. I think he purchased like a pre-construction apartment building. Actually, I want to say it was probably 4 or 5 years ago. So I think that they're getting ready to start construction on that now. And once that gets up, obviously he'll start to have reoccurring revenue coming in. So I actually like that model of getting a pre-construction sort of recurring asset and being able to live off of the income that comes from that.
Got you. We talk financial emancipation on this channel, Will. So I'm probably gonna link up with you offline to kind of find out more information about that, because I would love to get some Airbnbs abroad. So
yeah,
I would love to do that. And from a guy, I actually went to a couple of salsa competitions in Colombia. That country is absolutely beautiful. I could live there.
Really.
It's gorgeous.
It's interesting that you bring that up. Just a quick side note: I was looking at Bogota, actually, doing some research and due diligence. They're telling me that that's sort of the capital city, almost like a New York per se of Colombia, in the sense of their financial headquarters per se. So that's one country that I'm really looking at, and one city that I'm potentially looking at if I want to invest or start business over there.
Yeah, I always tell my wife about Colombia. It's a beautiful country. A lot of countries in Latin America, they're absolutely gorgeous. And it's sad to say this, but I've been treated much better over there than I do in my own country. And it's sad to say that. So right. It is what it is, I guess. I don't know what the answer is. Eric, how about you, bro? Obviously, Tamir Rice, Breonna Taylor, Walter Sterling, all these guys, Alton Sterling, Walter Scott. What are your thoughts on, I guess, this newest atrocity and lynching that we see? And what are your thoughts, I guess, on the Black Lives Matter movement in 2023?
Honestly, to echo what Will said, when I saw it, I was like, again? Like, when is this going to stop? That was my first thought. But when I started initially trying to view the video, bro, I had to shut it off, man. That was brutal. That looked like something from one of those extremely violent movies. And I was like, bro, I'm not going to watch somebody just senselessly get beat like that. Because, yes, it was disgusting. And as, I have some friends who work for the PD, and they're privy to some information, and they're thinking there might be some connection between the two. So one of the officers might have been using his power to just be disgusting. So I'm sick of it, man. And kind of like what Will was alluding to, sometimes you're like, man, where can you go? I work remote as well. I have a friend who works with me, similar industry, and he was living in Senegal for like 6 months, and he was setting up Airbnbs too, as a matter of fact. So it's funny that you're talking about that. And it seems like a lot of people are just tired of it, and they're ready to go somewhere else, because how many more? When is it going to stop? I mean, since Abraham Lincoln was like, hey, you can get 40 acres and a mule, and you can have your own thing. And then they kill Abraham Lincoln. They're like, nah, let's send them all to Liberia. And they're like, whoa, that's unconstitutional. Let's come up with the 13th Amendment. It's like they're always trying to find a way to continue doing what they were doing. Because power, if you understand power, and I know, Chris, I know you've seen 48 Laws of Power or read the book or something of that nature.
Phenomenal book.
Once people have power, they don't want to let it go.
Oh no.
And you have to fight for it. And our current people, that fight that was within our the civil rights leaders, the Malcolms, Martin, the Marcus Garveys, the people like that who wanted to educate and show our people, listen, there's a different way to go about this. And then those who were saying, hey, you owe us repair for what you've done to us in the past. They kill them off and they basically try to kill the fight. And now they're trying to use other techniques like offering their women here. You can marry ours and you can be close to us, but you can never be us. They're trying to use these different subliminal tactics and techniques, especially if you look at advertising. Look at the commercials and the races they're depicting. They try to do everything to stomp the fight out of us. And it's like, you either fight, you hide, or you leave. Those seem like those are the three options. And honestly, the last lynching, man, I was sick to my stomach. Honestly, I was done.
Yeah. I'm a trained fighter, so I've actually got in cages and rings and fought people. I actually got offers to do it professionally. And it was interesting seeing the way they were holding him up and punching him and stuff like that. And as a guy who has actually physically knocked people out before and sanctioned fights and stuff like that, I even looked at it and said it's disgusting. And it does not take, and it takes a lot for me to kind of get to that point just because I have physically been in rings and knocked guys out before. So it was just a filthy and disgusting video. And you made a very good point, Eric. You also made a very good point too, Will, because when Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves or whatever, blacks did not get any land. We did not get any property. We did not get nothing. My grandfather was a sharecropper. I'm gonna bring this up later. My grandfather was a sharecropper, and my son is gonna probably be the first one in our line who's gonna have what I call black privilege, in that he's gonna be more or less set for life because of the things that I'm setting up for him. But when our ancestors were freed from slavery, they got nothing. They got no land. They got no property. If they knew how to use guns, they sent them out to the West Coast to basically kill Native Americans. Whereas when the Irish and the Italians got here, they got hundreds of thousands of dollars of free money, and they got thousands of acres of free land or whatever, like the Oklahomas, the Nebraskas, the North Dakotas, the South Dakotas. So it's like America, unfortunately, has always kind of had some kind of little thing to kind of keep us, quote unquote, in this box. And one thing that I do like about what I'm seeing on the screen is that Eric, Will, when you have kids, Will, and Kim especially, our kids are going to kind of be, I think, the first generation of blacks that are kind of somewhat, to some extent, in that higher end socioeconomic status or whatever. So I don't really know what to think about it. It's another one of those things that kind of pisses you off because you're like, okay, what can we do to stop this? Because the only reason why those 5 police officers were fired as quick as they were was because they were black. Simple as that. They didn't. It took a worldwide protest, and it took essentially the entire world coming after, and it took COVID or whatever for them to basically lock up Derek Chauvin for killing George Floyd. But because these 5 officers were black, it's amazing how quick the justice system worked to fire them.
You can't forget about Breonna Taylor.
Oh my
God. Those officers were walking for a minute.
Crazy, man.
And if people weren't making a huge dent, professional athletes wearing Breonna Taylor on their shirts and things like that, there would have been no attention to it. They would have got away, literally, with murder.
Yep. That's just disgusting. All right, Kim, would you like to chime in on this, or you want to move on to the next question?
I would, very briefly. Hi, guys.
Hey, Kim.
Hi. I piggybacking off of everyone's comments, I didn't watch the video. And I've made a point, I have never even seen the George Floyd video, but I really am so impressed by what you guys are saying as it relates to being okay to relocate. Us as Black people have so much talent and resource that and we're so influential. I don't think there's any place we could go on earth and not make a difference and make a living. So I think that is from what I've seen, I plan to marry a Black man. I have a Black brother. I have Black uncles. I have family in PD. And to know that our own did that to our own is sending a message to the world. And
I am also in pursuit of a place where, you know, my family, I can raise a family and they be safe. I got my real estate license just to do that. To now go, and I've already been investing, but I've been investing in Florida and some in Wisconsin. But now I'm really looking, like you said, Bogota, beautiful. I went last year for a business trip, actually. A wonderful company there. They're so welcoming. Like, it feels like though we look differently, they're so welcoming. It is the capital. It has beautiful terrain. I just hope we can explore. You know, my job this year was, I have 4 siblings. 3 of them are younger than me. I bought them passports. I want you to see outside of where I came from. I forged the way, and now I want you to see that there's way more than what we're being shown in media, and that you know, we are an invaluable resource on Earth. So,
absolutely. I couldn't agree more, Kim. All right, let's move on. Let's just play both sides of the coin, okay? Kim, I'm gonna fire this question to you, okay? 2022. Do you think we're playing the victim today? And you think there is an element of us lacking accountability in the United States of America today?
On mute, my dear.
Hey, Kim, you're on mute. Kim, you're on mute.
Sorry, guys. I was just speaking to a colleague today about that, and we can say that there is some level, we have to take accountability, but I have a strong empathy, particularly for the Black community. And I have to preface that. And this might be controversial. I'm West Indian, I'm Haitian. I was reading an article, and it was saying they're calling Blacks African American so that they can devalue their contributions to America. It's like saying I'm African Haitian. No, I'm Haitian, because our family who fought, you know. And so that's why I've now been intentional to say Blacks that are, you know, they deserve the reparations. Their lineage is here. They made a difference. And so I'm very conscious on that. I think that it's not easy, Chris. It's not easy. I feel like we're holding accountability, but we have very little support. I'm working with some city officials, can't name drop, to try to bring a private school to a city like Miami so that our kids aren't redlined, because when you make a certain status, a certain amount of money, you are going to go to these schools. To be honest, I live in a more prominent, efficient, nice area, and the school grade is a F. People here with money send their kids to private school, or they go to the Jewish school. We don't even have the opportunity to educate the people of color. So though I feel that we definitely must take accountability, there is a level of, we need more of you guys in suits. I mean, I'm speaking to professionals. I have family, all my family members own land. There's a lot in homes here. I don't want us to get away from the fact that slavery wasn't that long ago. I know it's controversial.
Let's go.
My father was the first class of Black men that actually integrated in high schools. Think about that for a minute. And my father fought. My father. That is how short we as Black people have had basically freedom in this country. My father was was in the high school class that integrated the United States of America. It's that close.
Yeah. 1 or 2 generations separated from it. Yeah.
All right, how about you, Will? Do you think that Blacks today are playing the victim in 2022 and that we lack accountability? What are your thoughts on this question?
It's a little bit of both, to be honest with you. We are, on one side, we are sort of pitched propaganda, sold sort of a woe is me doctrine. Whether it's through media, whether it's through family, just culture that's been passed down from generation to generation. We understand that we're not running the race at the same pace, starting from the same place as everybody else, but that doesn't mean that we can't get up and go, right? people forget that immigrants who come to this country who have less than we do come here and pass us up. So the excuse of, well, we don't have this and we don't have that. Well, there's people that come to this country that have less than we have, and they end up going farther than we do. So there's the other side of the coin where it's like, okay, well, is it that we do not have the perseverance within ourselves to push beyond what's culturally acceptable, or are we really have a wall that's prohibiting us from going forward? I think it's a little bit of both. It starts with having I believe a spiritual foundation that, you know what, you can do more than what is presented to you, but you have to have a certain level of spiritual strength within yourself to be able to fight through. Because think about it, that's what our ancestors had to do when they were slaves, right? None of us are living in a time that was harder than what they lived in. Exactly. So there's no excuse that we have that our ancestors can look back and say, hey, you guys are complaining about this when we had to deal with that. You know what I mean? So we as Black Americans today, we really have to be cognizant of that, because I believe that our ancestors from 3 and 4 years, generation past, are looking down at us and saying, hey, you guys can get off your ass and do a little bit more than this.
Got you. Hey, Kim, I saw you raise your hand. Ladies first, Eric. So Kim, I saw you raise your hand. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
So I have, like, this is my only jump in on that. And we were talking about, you know, Mr. DeSantis has, I think he's like rejected the AP Black History. And someone had asked me today, what do I think about it? And I was like, candid, not to be political, I actually agree with it, because I went through the curriculum and I was like, there's certain things that you got to research it. It's certain things that, when I was young, I was in 3rd grade and they were showing us roots. And I remember, because my mom taught me about Toussaint and I'm Haitian, I was like, no, in 1804, but I'm forgetting I'm Haitian. We came over and helped fight the Civil War. Why aren't you guys talking about that? Mm-hmm. So my pride is in the fact that I know we kicked the French's behind and that we're strong, resilient, regardless of anything. And also what you're forgetting is we never had to cohabitate with our oppressor. That is we never had to look them in their eyes. There's a difference. We also have created a language. We never had to share the same tongue as the oppressor. We didn't take up their religion. We created within that oppression a culture. So and I'm getting chills because whenever I see people look down on Blacks, I get so upset because I can catch a flight and go home. I can speak in my language, in my freedom language, and these wonderful Blacks that came over through the transatlantic slave trade, they made billions in that time off of it, built this country, built the White House, and now you're trying to minimize their accomplishments. And when there was a Black Wall Street, you burned it down. You're shameless. Then you bring the 13th Amendment, you incarcerate them, you keep them in systemic poverty. It's not by happenstance. I'm telling you this. There are Cubans that, God, I love immigrants, that are probably given more aid than those who were born in this country because of their skin color.
Wet foot, dry foot policy.
I'm sorry, one more time?
Wet foot, dry foot policy.
Dry foot, yeah.
And so I want to, and I completely, I understand it, but I always tell people you have to have a little bit of empathy, because for some reason, people forget that if the Blacks were not valuable, you guys wouldn't have went out of your way to bring us here, or to drop us off in Haiti, or to drop us in South America. We're everywhere. And so we're working on it. You guys are amazing. We're getting there, but it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback on this one, Kim. This may push, you may not like what I'm about to say, but I'm gonna say it. When Haiti won their independence from Spain, from France or whatever, they outnumbered their oppressors 10-1. In America, we were outnumbered 10-1 by white folks. When Haiti won their freedom, France was fighting the Napoleonic Wars out in Europe. It was essentially was a world war going on. So France could not send troops to Haiti. However, Spain was sending troops to Haiti to help the Haitian immigrants fight the French. There were no Spain did not help Nat Turner basically fight white people. On top of that, there was no world war going on when Denmark Vesey was trying to get away from his oppressors. I love my Haitian people, but let's be honest, there are some differences between the two. I will say this, and you made a very good point about the head start and everything. We did not get a head start in the United States of America or whatever. White Americans got a 350-year head start to basically build wealth in the United States of America ahead of us. On top of that, like you said, Rosewood, Florida, Tulsa, Oklahoma, these were cities that legitimately had police officers and U.S. Marines going through shooting black people. And on top of that, they also say in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that they were using World War I fighter pilots to basically drop bombs on Black Wall Street. So, yes, I do think there is an element to America where as blacks, we need to kind of, I would say, work harder, basically have less baby mamas, stop hustling in the hood and stuff like that. But there is a specific agenda in this country to essentially kind of destroy black people. And we have to kind of get around it. It's as simple as that.
You have to acknowledge that United States is the only country in the world that has bombed itself.
Exactly. Germany, Nazi Germany.
Not even Germany, not France, none of them. We're the only ones who bombed ourselves, and it was strategically in black areas.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the next question. Eric, you start with this one. What does the word white privilege mean to you?
It's legal nepotism in which where the Anglo-Saxons, the descendants from the Caucasus Mountains, share benefits to each other, and they intentionally try to exclude others so they can maintain a level of power or distinction from the rest. That's what it means to me. And there was one thing I wanted to say earlier. I didn't get a chance to say it. You were talking about places where Caucasians were given land. And you know, when you have land, you have the ability to create wealth. Oregon was a state that was created that was specifically not to have any black people in it. Look it up. No black people were to ever enter Oregon. And all that land was given as a gift to Caucasians. That is the definition of white privilege.
Got you. Will, go ahead. What do you think? What's the definition of white privilege to you? Will, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Just to sort of remix a little bit what Eric said, I mean, it's inherent advantages that are given to white people by white people, right? Whether it's social, whether it's political, whether it's economical, geographical, whatever the case may be. They have created the power structure. They know how to move within that structure, and they know how to hold on to power so that they can continue to drive that structure, right? You're talking about a country whereas 60% of the people are white, right? A lot of the people that are in power are concerned about the white culture not repopulating at the same rate that they're losing individuals, right? And they're worried about that because I believe by the year 2050, I think it is, this country is going to be, almost 50-50 when it comes to black and brown people versus white people, right?
2042.
So that 2042. So
42.
You're looking at a shift.
Ooh.
You're talking about a potential shift in the structure of the dominant society where this country was never set up like that, right? So that in and of itself at an infrastructural level is what they're looking at. And they can't have that because that turns the entire way of life over on its head for their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren. They don't want their great-grandchildren to grow up with potentially the same issues that they inflicted upon us and all of our ancestors 5 and 6 and 8 generations past.
Got you. Yeah, I mean, I agree completely. There's nothing I can add to that. There's nothing I can add to it. Let's go back to the critical race theory thing. It's actually one of the questions I wanted to ask. According to Ron DeSantis, he's a current governor of the state of Florida. Him and his education commissioner of Florida, they rejected the teaching of African American AP history because they said it lacked any educational value. And let's go ahead and delve into that. Kim, you said you were in agreement with Ron DeSantis in regards to getting rid of critical race theory, in regards to banning the teaching of AP African American history in the state of Florida. It's interesting because you can still teach Chinese history, you can still teach AP Latin history, you can still teach AP European history, but you can't teach AP African American history. So Kim, I'll start with you. You said you're in agreement with Ron DeSantis basically banning teaching that. So why is that? Why are you in agreement? What's your thoughts on it, I guess?
As a former high school math teacher, I was teaching, I was doing geometry, but I was also doing pretty much pre-college algebra, but I also taught history. I made it a point to teach, it was in the inner city. I'm from Orlando, so I was teaching Spanish Culture Month. We would do something for Haitian Culture Month. We did something for African American history, Black history, etc. I really strongly believe, I looked through the curriculum, I'm in academia, I strongly believe that Blacks should be teaching Black kids Black history, because they will teach us, or the Blacks, that we were slaves, that we were less, and people don't know the like there's so much pride in our culture, but why hasn't anyone taught about the advancements? I'm sorry, this is gonna sound crazy, but Black history, Black education needs to start at your home. Don't let anyone misconstrue it, because it's literally going to shape. I told my high school, at that time, Obama was running for the first time, President Obama, my forever president. And I told them literally, Obama can go into office and do nothing. But if I can finally look at this poster you guys have posted in my wall, in my classroom, and see someone that looks like you somewhat, I can now tell you it's possible. I can now look my brother in the eye and say it's possible. We don't have any representation. I strongly believe that Blacks should not let, I was talking to somebody today, I was like, if you can vet the curriculum, don't send your kids to public school. I'm just wondering. But if you can teach them African history or Black history, teach them yourself. We have so much resources. We have ChatGPT. We have everything. I don't think we should trust the state of Florida to teach your children about Black history. I'm just gonna say it.
Hey, we're using AI.
Hi.
All right, Will. By the way, say hello, Kimmy. Dr. Micaiah, say hello.
Hello.
Yep. All right, Will.
Oh, sorry. Hi, everyone. Sorry I piped in late. I just came from another meeting, but I'm so excited to be on this call with you all, and I'll just try to catch up from wherever we are.
All right, Will, let's go with you. Last year, basically, there's an assault on teaching Black history, and Florida Republican Governor Ron DeSantis basically banned the teaching of African American history and AP studies and everything, advanced placements for AP studies for African American history. So, what are your thoughts on that, Will?
Yeah, so just really quick, it was a few days ago, I had saw a clip. They had interviewed DeSantis about this, and he spoke more in detail about why he shut it down. And from the clip that I saw, maybe I need to go back to see the entire clip, but part of what he said was that they were trying to, inside the curriculum, they were trying to push certain ideologies that aren't necessarily tied to African American history. Like, I believe he mentioned something about the like queer theory and gender neutrality, things like that. So what he was angling to, based off of the clip that I saw, was they were trying to push a certain ideology in between teaching the history. So that was part of his issue that he didn't necessarily agree with. From what I understand, it wasn't necessarily specifically teaching AP courses, but trying to input this new ideology is part of what his issue was. And I believe Kim had said something earlier that I had actually agreed with when it came to the CRT curriculum, or I'm sorry, the AP curriculum. You have to go back and actually see what's in the curriculum instead of seeing other people's reactions to it and then making your decision off of it.
I've read the curriculum. I've read the book, so I'm on a.
Okay, I didn't see it yet.
I've read critical race theory books, but I don't want to cut you off. Go ahead. I'll chime in at the end.
Okay, yeah, but yeah, I personally haven't seen any of the curriculum, so I can't speak to it. But I'm just gonna throw that out there because I don't know if the national media saw that clip of what I saw DeSantis said.
Got you, Eric. I saw you about to raise your hand. What's up?
Do they try? I've noticed this with when it comes to everything blacks try to do to advance. They try to slide it in LGBT elements.
Right.
So you mentioned the other AP classes that they are teaching, which would be the Chinese history, and whichever other histories that they are teaching. Are they trying to slide the LGBT into those curriculums?
Have you ever heard the term latinx, Latinx, with the Hispanic community? No. Basically, yes, they are sliding that. They are sliding the LGBTQIA communities into other histories as well. Ron DeSantis, though, only has a problem when they're teaching black kids the greatness of black history. So yes, you take a look at the Latino community, you say Latino, you're talking about a Hispanic man. You say Latina, you're talking about a Hispanic woman. So now what that community is doing is they call it the Latinx community, the Latinx community or whatever. So yes, those other communities are absolutely being having the LGBTQIA community is basically sliding into their curriculum as well. But DeSantis has no problem with that. He only has a problem with the African American history courses.
Okay.
I find that interesting because it's like there is history outside of sexuality. There are humans outside of your sexual preference. Sexual preference is normally an adult thing. Like, remember when we were younger, they were like, yo, let the kids be kids. Let's try not to have too many sexual things within their TV shows. And let's just let them have an imagination, let them grow. It seems like younger and younger, they're trying to influence sexuality. And it's like, to me, I just think the whole thing is. I don't think. I'll just leave it like that.
Got you. Got you.
You want to teach that, but let's keep them separate.
I'm going to be honest with this one. I think this is a blatant attempt to whitewash history. I've read critical race theory books. I agree with you, by the way, Kim. All history, your history needs to be taught at home. I was doing I was reading books about Medgar Evers getting shot by Byron Della Beckwith when I was 7 years old with my father. I was reading books about Stokely Carmichael, about Marcus Garvey, about Wynton Marsalis. I had to do book reports basically to figure out my history because my father said, I don't want you walking outside that door and thinking that your people have never contributed anything. So I was taught African-American history literally from as early as I could remember. I will also say this though. I like to travel. I want to go to Russia someday. Why? Because I took an AP Russian history class or whatever when I was in high school and also when I was in college. I found out about Dostoevsky. I found out about the Pomashevsky. I found out about the different parallels that Russia slavery system had to the American slavery system. I never would have gotten that. I never had that experience if I did not get a chance to study that stuff in high school. Ron DeSantis, in my opinion, and so is Glenn Youngkin in Virginia, they're trying to bury their history because it makes them uncomfortable. They don't want people to know that their grandfather threw bricks at little girls or whatever who wanted to go to school. Those grandparents don't want their granddaughters to know they threw bricks at little girls. That to me is the reason why Ron DeSantis is trying, and Glenn Youngkin in Virginia is trying to ban critical race theory. So as an African American, I'm openly against it. To me, I think it's racist, and I think he's basically trying to whitewash history, and I think he's going to pay for it eventually someday in the polls. But let's move on. Dr. Makaya, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. And my comment on this topic is I think a lot of this should be taught at home. And thankfully right now we have social media. I think a lot more of us should get out on social media, make real short things that will educate people. Because to be truly honest, there are not that many people who are taking AP classes, but we have so many people on social media now. So it becomes our platform to teach people, to just make it fun, short clips. So we can definitely amplify our voices and amplify this information there.
Got you. I agree. I agree completely. All right, Kimmy, let's start with you on this one. I think this is kind of right up your alley. In 2022, President Biden passed an executive order to forgive $10,000 to $20,000 of student loan debt, and basically for forgiveness and everything. As it currently stands, Republicans in Congress are blocking it. Kimmy, what are your thoughts on student loan forgiveness and being a medical doctor? Being a medical doctor, what are your thoughts on it?
So, I mean, I love the idea of student loan forgiveness because I feel like the burden of loan sometimes influences what people do. Sometimes people have so many loans and so many financial obligations that they shortchange themselves. Sometimes they'll take a job quickly or not pursue further education because they're scared of how much debt they'll take. But then I think, again, on the flip side, you know, there are two sides to the coin, because on the flip side, I also think that when people go to college, they should also go with a mission and an endpoint in mind. When they select majors and career paths, they should not just select something because it's fun and they love to do it. They should also think of the long-term implications. They should think, what do people who do this major end up doing? What is the average salary that somebody who makes this do, and will I be average, or am I so talented and special in this that I'll beat the odds? So I think there are two sides to the coin, but on one other hand, on one hand, people also have to be very careful with the courses they choose, so that they choose courses and majors that will set them out to careers that will allow them to pay them off. That's where you're not dependent on politics and stuff for your financial situation, but you take control of things yourself. So I would like for student loan forgiveness to be there, but I don't think we should wait for it. I think we should just take charge and be careful with what courses we choose.
Got you. Hey, Eric, let me let Marsha L go, okay? Go ahead, Marsha, go ahead.
Yes. Amazing what Dr. Kemi said. And I lived that. I was going to go into the nurse practitioner program. I had a full ride undergrad and #1 school in the country. And it was $120,000 to go to that school. I also applied, this is Johns Hopkins, and I applied to the University of Minnesota. That's a public. And I was not able to get in. Do you want to know why? Because it's called shark lending, or I'm making that up, but they literally, it's predatory lending. Why is the exact same degree $120,000? Mind you, at this point, I'm in a very good six figures position that didn't really require a degree, but you got to have some mathematics experience, no worries. So I called my mom and I was like, listen, first of all, it's East Baltimore and I have a very bright red Mercedes. I'm not staying there, one. And I paid for my seat. I walked in there and then it triggered me at that moment, because school was always very easy for me. But to a lot of people, this is the only way, which is it's great. It triggered me that I'm an amputee, I have one leg. Not one of the counselors there said, hey, before we do this, before I make you sign $120,000, are you sure you can stand for 12 hours? No one sat there to see if I could physically do the job and if I was emotionally ready to do said job. That is because there's so many people, I have friends that are doctors, engineers, they get on the back end of this debt and thinking this is what I want to do. And then they get into this field if they're lucky. We have to remember, big tech has let go 6-figure salaries within 2 weeks?
Mm-hmm. Google.
A cold 3 a.m. email. I told my students in college, when I had a program I created so that I could pay for their application to go to a community college. The only reason why I did that was because I told them, don't go to study just to study. Find a good group of smart people, you'll pass the test. Go to learn about yourself, learn about character, learn what you don't like, most importantly, then maybe find what you do like. Make smart friends, good network, and understand that no one owes you anything after you walk across that stage. I gave them that because I got a full ride plus scholarship. I used to go to school just so I can get my check back. I had like $3,000. This is back. I was like, no, because then I knew I had to go to work. And I only say that to say, yes, some people go on the back end, like my cousin, doctor, we know how, went to the University of, she's a nurse anesthetist, went to the University of Miami. You do know that program is private. So you're still accruing interest on very expensive debt. I'm not saying it's not a great investment, but I do think we should take a page from the Jewish community. I was watching a rabbi and he said, if we don't teach our children to fish, it's like we're teaching them to steal. So they specifically teach them business. They teach them to find a solution, find it, even if they're just working at their parents' shop. Guyanese people also are very big on that. Asians, you can find an Asian shop in Haiti, in Belize, anywhere, because they taught them the root fundamentals of being able to meet the demand wherever it's needed. So I want our people to free them. They have to learn it's okay to work with your hands. It's okay to be logistics, to use logistics to find different types of jobs, because a lot of people are graduating, walking across that stage with debt that is accruing. They were not trust fund babies. And that debt is crippling the people. That's all I have.
All right, Will, go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
I'm gonna swing at this at a little bit different angle. I think that the debt forgiveness is putting a Band-Aid on a problem that needs surgery. We have to remember that college loans are the only debt vehicle that you can get without having to qualify for, per se, right? You want to get a car loan, you got to qualify for it. You want to get approved for a mortgage for a house, you got to qualify for that. The system is set up to put us into debt early and have us in a trail position for the rest of our lives, right? That's the purpose of why those loans are given out so much in college anyway. If I took out $100,000 college loan that has interest, and now it's 20 years later and it's piled up, and now I'm, basically 175, 200, whatever the case, forgiving $10,000 or $20,000 is a Band-Aid on the problem.
So you
right?
don't want 20, you don't want 20 stacks?
No, I'm not saying that I don't, but I'm saying that the initial problem, and Chris, you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I know.
The initial problem started with the vehicle in which you use to put this person in the debt to begin with. The system is not ever going to want to change that, because that's how you keep the train moving, keeping people behind in debt and basically keeping them in economic bondage through life. So I think the best option is kind of what Marcel just said is, everything starts in a home. The family has to, the parents, the elders, the community within has to be able to teach our youth the fundamentals of money management, right? Budgeting, just basic economics, right? We have to understand those things at an earlier and earlier age, so that by the time we're going to sit in those offices, I mean, I'll just to kind of sidebar real quick. When I sat down in front of my guidance counselor to do my loans when I was in college, I understood the difference between a variable rate and a fixed rate, right? So I knew, and I wasn't sitting there with my parents or anybody, I was sitting there by myself. So I knew when I had the option to look at the different grant options, I said, hey, I'm only going to get this fixed rate. I'm not doing that variable shit, because I understand what that could lead to in the end. I was very fortunate because of the fact that, one, I went to a local school in New York. At that time, I'm still living in New York. I went to a local school, small school, and we're in the STEM field, right? I'm in the mathematical side and the finance side. So I was able to go to a relatively cheap school, but get a degree that's going to net me a high income for the foreseeable future. Absolutely. Right? So that's how I won on both sides. But again, I had enough education before I even went into that room, before I signed those documents, so that I wouldn't be in such a hole 20 years down the line.
I like what you guys are saying. Y'all are talking about the accountability portion. I have a book, Scholarship, The Golden Road to Free Money, where I talk about specifically, this is how you go to college essentially for free. I obtained my undergraduate engineering degree for free. When I went to grad school, I got lied to. My company was supposed to pay for it. They didn't, so I had to pay for my MBA on my own. I lived in the hood for about 5 years. It's $125,000. It is what it is. It made me, I learned a lot doing that. But basically, I like how you guys are talking. You're saying there's an accountability portion. Is why in the world are you letting an 18-year-old literally get $300,000 worth of student loans for a degree that they may not even finish? But then there's also an element is we need to teach our community, and I like that. I like that. Eric, before we go forward, is there anything you want to chime in? Do you think it's a good idea that they're blocking this $20,000? What's your take on it? Because you got kids, so what's your take on this, bro?
No, I think they should forgive them, because they were really quick to forgive those PPP loans. And you got celebrities taking out 18 million. Tom Brady took out 48 million. Jay-Z took out 25 million. and he's already a billionaire. Like, why are you taking free money knowing it's gonna be forgiven when there's people actually trying to contribute to the economy, not dodging taxes, that can't get 20 grand forgiven? Come on, man. I think you should forgive the money because they're actually trying to be law-abiding, contributing citizens.
Got you.
Look out for your people, America.
Got you. We kind of touched on this one a little bit earlier, everybody, and it's real estate. I do know, for the most part, the people I'm talking to, you guys are either homeowners, you're about to be homeowners, or you own multiple pieces of property. So this is a question that's kind of right up all of you all's alley. Real estate, in my opinion, has always been the #1 engine to create wealth, period. Will, you're in finance. I'm a finance guy. Generally speaking, most of the millionaires I run into, 40 to 60% of them, real estate was how they did it. At least. Right. Families that own land, generally speaking, those are the ones that own property. Families that own land, those are the ones that build generational wealth. So how do we as Black people get more of our folks to start buying property and essentially get into real estate and real estate investing?
Personally, I think, again, just to kind of go back to what I said before, we have to start getting our kids interested in it in an earlier age. I watch Mad Money by Jim Cramer, right? And when he has his call-in portion of the show, sometimes you'll hear kids call in and asking about stock advice, and they're saying, hey, me and my dad sit down and we look at the market each and every day, and my dad teaches me about, you know, what stocks look for, what KPIs look for, such and so forth. Those conversations I never had, and I never heard within the Black community that I grew up in, talking about just sitting down and looking at the market and trying to understand it at all. Now, a part of that is a lot of our parents don't have the knowledge anyway, so they can't pass down to us what they don't know themselves, right? So that aside, for those of us who are in the economic space and the educational space where we actually have that knowledge, that is on us to start that now. I don't care if your kid is 5 years old, you need to teach them and start to get them to understand how money works. Right? It's not just a physical piece of paper, it's a tool. Teach it as a tool, teach it as an instrument.
Gotcha.
So we gotta go for it.
Eric, I think you were raising your hand, bro. Blacks in real estate, how do we get more of our people to start buying property and to start buying land?
First and foremost, we need to educate our people and stop letting companies like Nike, companies like Gucci, try to entice our dollars out of our community into these expensive items that make you look rich and actually do the things that make you rich. Right. One of the greatest things, one of my cousins, he bought a property out in Long Island. He said he went through all the nicest neighborhoods he could find, but he wanted to find the most beat up house in this nice neighborhood because he's like, I'm gonna buy it, rehab it, and flip that sucker, and then take a HELOC at it, and you know the whole game. And he did that. He said he paid off, I think it was like a $600,000 house. He said he paid off in like 4 years. And then he's like, okay, now I have a completely paid off property. He has his trust and all this stuff set up for his kids and things of that nature. And he's like, now this one property is gonna go get me 3 more. And that's how he likes the hunt. And it's like a family thing. We make jokes. We're like, okay, you know, our parents did good. Now, which one of us is going to do the best? You know, the cousins, it's like our joke. We're like, we need to see 10 years who's going to have the most money. And it's like a sport. And like you said, real estate is, man, they say there's like 4 pillars of wealth. Real estate is the easiest one because you don't have to be a genius. You don't have to, you know, take any MCATs or LSATs, or you don't have to be an engineer. You can literally buy property. You can rent property, purchase more properties. You can refi, take equity out of it. There's a lot of different avenues you can take to achieve it. But we have to start with excellent money habits first. Stop giving your money to these companies and start using your money to work for yourself.
Agreed. Kim, go ahead, Marshall. Go ahead and speak. Go ahead.
Yes, just to piggyback off of that, that is amazing. And I think, like you said, starting young, educating our children, and also I'm praying to God that there be a change. This is controversial because I'm in this industry in hip hop, because we are the most influential people on this earth. I've never heard, and I could be wrong, a country music artist talk about killing, drugs, and perpetual violence in their music.
Oh,
and
talk to me, girl.
I'm sorry?
No, I'm saying, talk to me. You were spitting
Yeah,
straight
yeah.
truth. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm passionate
And
about this.
I'm very big on it. I am praying, and I was in the industry and I get it. But that is the poison that is putting a chokehold on the people, because we do absorb these type of things. I know what it is, and we'll go into why is it that only our community has this no rap policy. When violence and things occur, we don't need any more Black men in prison. Rat hell. You'll never hear them say that to Justin Bieber. You'll never hear them say it to anyone being tried. And how does this tie into home ownership? Because it starts at the root. If they have to keep up with this imagery, if you know how many rappers that I know and music stars, because they're in loans, they have these 360 deals, they have these bad loans. Home ownership, understanding the loan system. Fannie Mae is living the dream. I'm quoting that in. They are winning off of putting people in chains. That is the capitalist slavery trade, is loan debt and not understanding loan debt and credit and how this applies. Saying that all to say, home ownership, to get people enticed, they have to change their mind. They have to be renewed in their minds. We have to stop listening to things that make us want to be these people that we're not. You are not catching bodies. Okay, you are from Windermere. Why are you rapping and listening to this music? What are you doing? This is part of the problem. So now we're working backwards to look and fit into this hip hop culture. Okay, but when the real hip hop stars that actually know, they get into business. Rose could not write another hook, and he didn't make his money just from music, okay? Because the word on the street is he was wearing fake stuff up until a certain amount. I don't blame him. Ocho Cinco goes to Claire's. Good reason, because that's not where the value is. Now, if we can teach our people of the importance of credit, why, if you knew how many, they used to solicit young, innocent college students for city cards for $500, and they would go into debt off of $500 credit cards. That is predatory. So I say that to say it starts at home. You got to stop with the music, and we have to start teaching, like you said, the how to loan management. Because I'm in real estate. I went in and said, okay, I'm going to go and do the loan officer program, because I know what it is to get a great rate. The interest rate is almost more of a problem a lot of the times because of bad credit, because of bad banks. The bank is going to win always off the top, but you have to cut and leverage what you have. Don't let them kill you with interest. And again, using the strategies. And then the last thing I'm going to say to the people that keep selling these courses, our Black people need to be advanced. Stop selling them and stop saying that there's not a magic formula. It takes hard work, dedication, and consistency. Stop telling people that they can do this in 2 weeks.
Hey, Kim, I sell courses, but I tell people straight up, look, if you want to be rich, do two things. Spend less than you make, basically, and invest consistently over decades, not days. And that's how you get wealthy, okay? Simple as that.
That is good.
Yeah. Before we go to the next question.
I have a question. Before this is over, can we circle back to that hip hop thing my lovely sister just finished talking about?
Oh, yeah. We got time for it. We got time for it.
Make a note of that, Chris. Make a note.
I will. They sell poison to our community.
We'll get back to that.
I run for my YouTube channels. I do algorithms and stuff like that. If I sit up here and I say some BS about hip hop or whatever, I talk about what this female rapper said about such and such. I talk about a murder case or something, or I talk about some foolishness. I talk about hip hop, or I talk about what's the latest stuff that's kind of going on with Lizzo or with Tory Lanez or whatever. My algorithms shoot through the roof. It's insane. But if I sit up here and I talk about 401k matches, I'll talk about what's the best index fund to buy, or I talk about what's the best way to get into real estate, or how to become a real estate investor, or how to write a will or a trust. It's sad because people don't want to hear that kind of stuff. So I can just say, just from my end, getting up here and saying negative, stupid foolishness, your algorithms go through the roof. And when you talk positive about how to build generational wealth, it's a lot harder, people. It's kind of like on Instagram. If a girl is shaking her butt and she's naked, her views go up. But she's wearing all of her clothes and she's talking about being a medical doctor. It's not the same. But we got a guy that basically they sell poison to our community. Let's let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving, okay? So this is for my fellas, okay? Deion Sanders, Coach Prime. Do you think he sold out by leaving the historically black college Jackson State and going to teach at a predominantly white institution, Colorado State, in 2022? What are your thoughts, fellas?
I go first on that one.
Yeah, you go first on that one, bro.
I absolutely think he made the right decision. And you know, I'll keep it simple. At the end of the day, this is a business first. And if Deion was not producing the results that they wanted, they would have not cared that he was black and he was prime, this and that. They would have made a business decision that suited their best interest, and they would have got out. So at no point is he beholden to his race loyalty over his business savvy. Deion, you made the right move. I gave him a high five out the door. That's it. That's all I got to say about that, man.
You don't think he should help the kids? All right, Eric, go ahead.
No, you're full. Yo, Coach Prime, my dad used to tell me a long time ago, rest his soul, he passed away, but he would say, like, listen, man, if you go to a place, leave it better than you found it. Mm-hmm. If you date a girl and it doesn't work out, leave her better than you found her. Like, because you showed up, it should be better than when you leave. You know what I mean? So, Coach Prime left the Jackson State significantly better than he found it.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they had a water crisis there where there was no running water in the city.
Yep.
And this man was using his connects to take care of the city. He brought them between 30 and 35 million, just him being there. They asked him to be there for 2 years. They're like, please give us 2 years. He gave them 3. So he exceeded all expectations. That hat with the J for Jackson State was sold out. Everybody was buying it because of him, not because of Jackson State. Nobody cares about that. First of all, they were a very unknown HBCU.
Yeah.
You know, there's North Carolina A&T, there's Howard, there's other ones, right? FAMU. We have some bigger dogs, and they leapfrog a bunch of schools because Prime was there. Bethune-Cookman, all of them took a back seat because of Coach Prime. So he even brought ESPN there. That has never, ever happened. Stephen A., all the big names were on the HBCU campus for his game. The man did so much for them, but now he has an opportunity. People are like, man, he should just keep taking $200,000 a year instead of having an opportunity to go get $5 million. No, the man needs to get his money. And he also propped them up to continue being successful after he left. He did exactly what my dad said. Leave the place better than you found it.
Got you. Ladies, I don't know if you ladies watch college football, but if you do, what are your thoughts on Deion Sanders, Coach Prime? That's what I love to call him. Essentially leaving a black college and then going to a white college.
I mean, I just echo the last sentiment. He had to do what was best for his family. And so, yes, it sucks a little bit for the HBCU, but somebody else can rise up and help them out. At some point, you just have to you'll have to look out for yourself individually and not always bear the burden of your blackness when you make decisions for yourself.
Yep. Like, Marsha L., anything you want to chime in on Coach Prime?
Yes, I love Coach Prime. My cousin was supposed to try out, okay? And he was going to walk on. And this is the semester before he leaves. I think it was like that fall, and he left in announced middle. Before he went, I told him, listen, don't go for the coach. You got to go with a vision and knowing that you're going to put in the work regardless, because those recruiters will find you wherever you are. But you can never go because of someone. And in Coach Prime did amazing. I always say comfort breeds complacency, and familiarity also can make people feel like, let's be honest, he commingled with the lowly. He didn't have to do that. I'm gonna be honest. That's what
Jackson, Mississippi.
In Jackson, he risked his family's life, brought his kids there.
True.
He did more for Mississippi. Mississippi is the poorest state, I think, in the union. I'm almost certain.
Nah, they are. They're the poorest state in the union.
Yeah.
And he came and said, I'm going to sacrifice. people need to appreciate people's presence and understand that, because if he would have stayed another year, guess what? They would say, oh, that's just Coach Prime. He left right on time in God's timing, and I believe he's gonna carry the torch for him to go all the way to California. He's like, and of course, who's the savior? A black man. That's all I'm saying. Because he's in Colorado trying to fix it. So that's
you're right. You're right. I'll say this about it. If I told my wife, baby, let's say I'm making $30,000 a year, I said, babe, guess what? I just got a $500,000 a year job offer, but I'm gonna turn it down because I'm so pro-black. I'm gonna turn that job offer down. She said, get out of the house and don't come back until you get the job back again. So he walked away from seriously. Hey, to all the married people on here, that's what our wives would tell us, right? He went from making $300,000 a year to the research I did. I saw said 1.5 million plus bonuses. So basically, if you cut a zero off, that's like going from making $30,000 a year or whatever to $150,000 a year. And that's not including the fact that at Colorado, I hate to say this, but you get the free scholarships, you get a lot more perks, you get more ESPN money, and then on top of that, you also get a percentage of the sales and everything. So I can't fault Coach Prime on it, but I know he was getting ragged or whatever through Black Twitter. So I wanted to ask that question.
Yo, and he also discovered, and I hate to put our own people on blast, but it looks like Jackson State was supposed to give him a piece of the ticket sales. So he started campaigning for the people of Mississippi. Hey, come fill this arena for me so I can get my bread. And they started skimming him on ticket money. He's like, where's the money at?
Off the top.
Yeah.
Yo, and it's like, it be your own sometimes who be trying to take from you, which really hurt me, man, because I feel like Prime's such a good dude. Why are they stealing from that man?
Yeah.
You saw they broke into his office.
Yeah,
stole his watch.
Car. Cars got stolen, all kind of stuff. It gets back to that accountability thing. I love my people, but sometimes we have to look in the mirror with a lot of the problems that we have. So,
right.
Yep. Let's keep it moving. This question's for my ladies on the chat. What are your thoughts on the Supreme Court overturning Roe versus Wade, and how will it affect the Black community? Kim and Kimmy, I'll go ahead and let you ladies start off with that, okay?
So I'm disappointed that it overturned it, because I feel like for decisions like abortion, the Supreme Court has no business being involved. It's the individual person and their physician. Everyone is so different. And, I think they made it seem like physicians are all out there to get people to abort, and that's all we want to do. But a lot of times there are a lot of discussions, and a lot of people are encouraged to keep their babies if they can, if it's convenient, and if not, the abortion happens. So I just feel like the Supreme Court had no business making that decision, and it should have been left as on a more personal basis. Just like for me, for me personally, I don't believe in abortion, but then I wouldn't go superimposing my beliefs on other people. I feel like we have free will, and it's a very individual thing. So it's unfortunate. And then, in terms of the way it will affect the Black community, I know a lot of Black people had been getting abortions, so there'll be a lot of women who become unwanted mothers, and and maybe and have children in inappropriate times. So I'm already feeling very sorry for that situation for the children and the mothers, but it is what it is. I'm disappointed that decision was made, but we now just have to do our best with the situation we're left with.
Got you. How about you, Kim? How about you, Marshall? This is a question I want my ladies to answer.
Yes, I agree 100% with Dr. Kemi. They're overstepping their boundaries, and I think it's a distraction. I think there's a lot of motive behind that to maybe distract the people from something more important. I think the bigger issue is the fact that we don't have accessible healthcare. And so now you have been more so created I feel like we're being targeted. I feel like certain people in a certain socioeconomic class is being targeted for sure. Because if you can bring a child into this world into poverty, it's 10 times harder to break through it. So there's a lot of underlying motives to it. It's definitely not for the betterment of women or for society. I think that there should be a separation of, like we have a separation of church and state. There's also should be a separation here where women's healthcare should not be something you can just do a yay or nay on. There's a lot of people with PCOS that take birth control, and they did for other reasons. And I also just feel like you can't take a woman's autonomy away. So very disappointed. It's just terrible.
All right, Will, go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
We're gonna drum up some controversy for this one. because I have the 180-degree opposite viewpoint on that. Number one, I think we have to remember that the Supreme Court is the ones that put that into place to begin with. The Roe v. Wade law to allow for abortion to begin with back in 1967. Now, I don't know how many people know the root of Roe v. Wade, but a quick just history lesson. Norma McCorvey, the woman in Texas who essentially lied on Black men saying that she was raped, and that's how she got pregnant. That case got ran up to the Supreme Court, and that's how that got approved to begin with. So whether people realize it or not, and at the time, obviously, they had to conceal her name, so her name was Jane Doe within the court records. But years later, she came out and she spoke on it. But she essentially lied on Black men to enable this law to get into place. So that's the root cause. But beyond that, as we fast forward to here and now, one of the things people have to forget, the difference between men and women is, when we have bad consequences in this country, we financially have to pay for it. There's no such thing as we are loose with our seed and the government doesn't come get us. We don't have an out. If we get a woman pregnant, if we're loose with our seed or whatever, we either have to take care of that kid or we're going to jail. A woman gets pregnant, a woman uses her body and her choice to spread her legs, and then she has an out option at the end once she has unwanted consequences, right? A man does not have the option to opt out of being able to take care of a child if she wants to bring that child into the world. But if he wants to keep that child and she doesn't, she can just take the kid out of there and that's it, right? So what I'm really circling back to is, if men are told to protect our seed and to make better decisions before sex, then women need to be told to protect their womb and make better decisions before sex. I'm just gonna leave it there.
All right.
To be fair, to be clearly fair, you cannot ban abortion. You can only ban safe abortion. Let's be clear. And it has nothing, and I hate to go into the promiscuity and whatever that might be, but it's easier for men to get a vasectomy. So if we are really being proactive, I think it would be a good idea.
Wait a minute.
That if that's again, there's a lot of issue with consent. There's a lot of there are rape victims. There's a lot of things, like you said, it was a derivative of a quote unquote rape case. I will never say that a woman lied regardless of their color, but I do know there's a lot of people that have had to escape through this option. I think that in fact, they should have access to safe abortions, because they will still abort the babies. There are ways to do that outside of it, and it's not safe. And I think that as a community where, first of all, we have so many systemic issues, because black men are getting beat on the street by officers that are getting paid with tax dollars. We have Black men with the 13th Amendment that are being arrested. There are laws for people that are under Section 8 that they cannot have a man in the house. So yes, the law is, because it's in my real estate test. You cannot have, if you're on a certain income bracket, you cannot have a man living in the home. So again, yes, people make mistakes, but I also feel like white people benefit, and again, I'm not prejudiced. I love white people. They benefit more from abortions than Blacks a lot of the times, because they do use it a lot more. But the strategic option that should be there, because you cannot ban abortion. You can only ban safe access to abortion.
Hey Eric, I'm gonna let you jump in, because you're the only one on this panel, I believe, who has a daughter. I have a son, so I'm gonna let you go. So what's your take on this Roe versus Wade thing? What's your take on it?
Man, I have mixed feelings, because I'm kind of torn between what Will said and what Marsha said. Because I can see both sides of the coin. You know what I mean? So it was one of those things where you're like, did the government go too far? Did they overstep? It's I see both sides of it, honestly. But I did want to ask Ms. Kim, about the vasectomy statement she just made. I want to know how is that easier? Can you please explain?
It's healthier.
You can reverse the process. It's
What?
like it's reversible. Dr. Kimmy, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's reversible. So if you want to really
Different
protect,
kind.
I have a brother, and I'm always very careful. I said, don't you, because this is my baby, and I don't put him in the culture. You don't have to cater to anyone until you're ready, until God calls you. But I don't believe in child support. It's a whole different situation. I also don't, I'm in a good relationship. I don't believe in abortion personally, but that's for religious reasons. However, I understand its tool. A vasectomy might be a way to go if you can't control it. Lust is not my downfall, so I can't say it. But I do want people to take the precautions, and males could readily do it if they are having a lot of sex or stepping out. And it only takes
Eric and then Will. Eric and then Will.
I think I need to do men justice and speak on this vasectomy issue because it's not as easily reversible as people say, and there's two different types. I personally have one. People act like it's some painless process that feels great, and you're gonna be back letting them off in no time. It's not really like there's actually a lot of scar tissue that develops. Sometimes there's a lot of residual soreness, and it's not as easy of a process, because that's why I got it, because I didn't want my wife taking any forms of birth control or having anything done to her body, because I noticed the after effects are harsher on women than they are on men. So I was like, go ahead, snip on the, on the hacky sack, do what you got to do. But it's the whole reversible process, especially for mine, because they like cut and they burn your ends. So reversing it isn't as easy as people make it seem like, oh, they're just gonna tie a knot and it's good. Really like. So I have to speak to all the gentlemen out there who have heard this misconception before and let them know that might be false.
But I will say, in good faith, you seeing a complete sack come out of a woman, if you've seen a cervix expand, I think you guys can make it. That's all I have. Go ahead, Will.
That's so true. It's so much easier for men, even though it was hard and painful. Nothing close to what women go through.
I want to go ahead and say something, but Will, I want you to go first, okay?
Earlier on this broadcast, we spoke about accountability for our actions. Accountability starts with our own actions. People are too loose with seed. People are too loose with their womb. That is the problem. I have a choice as a man to put my penis inside of a woman or not put my penis inside of a woman, and take any consequences, good, bad, or indifferent, that comes with that. A woman has a choice to spread her legs for a man and take whatever consequences, good, bad, or indifferent, with that. When I was 16 years old, I was in my house and my mother told me, if you ever get a woman pregnant, you're getting your ass out of this house. Because she understood and she taught me what I'm saying now: prevention is better than cure. Why not talk about the prevention side instead of saying, okay, we've already made the mistake, now try to clean it up later? Because again, men don't have that option. I am a man. I do not have that option to go get a woman pregnant and then hope that she either does not put me on child support, or hope that she keeps the baby or doesn't keep the baby, whatever. If I slip up, everything is out of my hands after that. That's the reason why Drake had to put the hot sauce in the condom, because he already understood that he gets this girl pregnant, that's it. Everything is out of his hands. So he has to move different. He has to have prevention is better than cure. His prevention was putting the hot sauce in the condom. Okay. So again, if men have to go that far to think about all the consequences before they go into the action, women need to be put on that same accountability standpoint beforehand. Because if you do that, that alone, thinking about the consequences of man, is going to slow a lot of it up. And I'm gonna say that I'm gonna end it with this last point. If there was a law that stated this: a woman, she gets pregnant and now she has 100% authority to be able to bring the child to term or to not, without the father's consent, whatever. But if the law said, well, okay, well, if we're going to allow a woman to do that, the man can say, well, I want to sign a release absolving me from 100% of responsibility, financial responsibility, without the mother's consent. So now the mother knows that she can't get into that man's wallet. She knows that there is not an economic stimulus that's going to be attached to this man for the next 18 years or whatever. You think that would curve how many women are sleeping around? Absolutely it would, because she now does not have the legal authority to tap into that man's pockets like that. See, a lot of women that get pregnant are single mothers, whether by choice or happenstance, whatever. She knows in the back of her mind, if I got a baller, I can hook up to him, just like Brittany Renner did, right? If she knew from the gate before she even laid down with that basketball player,
her husband,
that she doesn't have the legal authority to his wallet, you think she got pregnant by him? Hell no.
Of course not. I'll say this, Will. I think I mentioned earlier that I got offers to fight professionally, box, kickbox, fighting cages and stuff like that. So on top of that, I also had a business on the side where I taught self-defense. So as I started teaching self-defense, I was blown away how many women I met who had been raped. I'm literally at one point over 90% of my clients or whatever had been raped. And these are women in church, women outside church, women I met at bars, women I met at clubs. I was absolutely blown away by the number of women who had been raped. And some of these women that had been raped, they had kids, and they were telling me what happened. I was just doing the math in my head and was like, that's probably a kid. That's probably the guy who, that son that she has, every time she sees it, that's probably the guy who raped her. So my take on it is this: yes, there are the Brittany Renners, there are the hood rats out here that we, as men, we all have money and everything. We all know there are women who have tried to trap us. At least I know I have. At the end of the day, rape is a real thing. To me, abortion should be safe, it should be legal, and it should be rare. And the reason why I say that is because as a guy, I think women should have the option to have a safe abortion. The reason why I say that is because if they don't, they are going to find other ways to do it. That's the thing. And then lastly, I would say as believers, as Christians, I personally don't think that, I think that abortion is one of those things I personally would not do it. If I got a girl pregnant, I'm happily married now. If I got a woman pregnant, I would not advise her to get an abortion. But at the end of the day, as Christians, we believe in a God of choice. And I think women should have the right to legally choose what they want to do. We can obviously get into the whole thing as far. That's my take on it, Eric. That's my take.
I love your take, man, but I'm very disappointed to hear that 90% of your self-defense customers were rape victims. Bro, that, because as a man who had options of women to, have transactions with, never once would I ever in a million years consider forcing myself on a lady. Like, why? Why are you doing it? Like, every time I hear about stuff like that, and when you find about the dudes who find out that rape happened to their family and they go find the dude and just go to town on him, right. I totally justify that, because why are you forcing yourself on someone? I'm sorry, man. That subject makes me so angry. I'm not even gonna lie to you, man. Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say about that, there is, Will, a drug out right now. It's still kind of in the production stage. DMAU. Essentially, it's a pill that when men take it, it does something to our hormones, so we can't get a woman pregnant. As of now, it's still kind of in the test stage. But I think in about 3 to 5 years, the idea of women being able to trap ballers, literally, you just pop a pill like a Skittle or whatever, and you can't get her pregnant. That is coming. I think there's going to be a rise of STIs because of that. Because guys, well, if I can have sex with her and not get her to come, and not get her pregnant, then you know what's going to happen. But just because I am an engineer, let's run through the numbers. Abortion by race. According to a 2016 study done by Guttmacher Institute, 40% of abortions today are done by white women. 28% of abortions were done by Black women, 25% of abortions were done by Hispanic women, and 6% of abortions were done by Asian or Pacific Islander women. 75% of the people who get abortions are below the poverty line, and 60% of abortions actually surprisingly come from two-parent families. So everyone is getting abortions, for lack of a better word. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. So let's keep it moving, guys. I want to go because we've got some very good questions. This has been a phenomenal podcast by the way, everybody. Thank you. So, a name I'm pretty sure everybody on this podcast knows, Kevin Samuels, the Godfather. Kevin Samuels was a phenomenon, and sadly, he died last year. What were your thoughts on Kevin Samuels and his impact on the Black community?